Good day, everyone. Eric from Helps YouTube Live. Glad to have you here on Thursday, December 11th, 2025. My name's Eric, attorney for 46 years now. Founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who struggle with debt they can't afford to pay. If you have any questions, put them in the chat feature. We'll be able to answer them. I'm glad to have you here. You can leave comments and we'll look at those later. Press the like button if you like our YouTube Live, and appreciate you being here. So the first question someone came up that I wrote down today that someone asked, they wrote in, they said, in debt, need knowledge and direction. Okay. Well, a lot of seniors are in debt. Over half of seniors have incomes that are classified as economically vulnerable. The statistics show that seniors have a lot of financial problems, and a lot of them are struggle with debt. And they want to get some knowledge, which we're going to give them, and we also need some direction. Now, what makes me or helps equipped to do that? Well, not only have I been an attorney for 46 years, but during almost all that time, I've specialized in helping persons, seniors who struggle with debt in order to solve their problem. Okay. Probably did 30 or 40,000 bankruptcies before Helps started. And Helps has been around since 2012. And specifically what we do is we represent seniors and disabled persons, regardless of your age, who struggle with debt in order to stop collectors from harassing them. See, the year I graduated from law school in 1978, a federal law was passed called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And that law provides if a person is represented by an attorney, debt collectors can no longer call or send demand letters to that person anymore. They have to communicate with the attorney. And so that's what Helps does. When people find out about us, they call us on the phone. We ask them questions. They may call us 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times before they decide to enroll. We enroll them over the phone. We click a button and you're going to get an email while we're on the phone that says, welcome to Helps. And then when we hang up the phone, you're our client. If a creditor were to call you, you tell them to call us, not to call you anymore. And then you're going to give us their name and address. We're going to send them a cease and desist letter, and they're going to leave you alone. And we represent you ongoing, not just once, but literally for the rest of your life. So if you ever have a question, if you're worried or scared or concerned, get a hold of us. If you're sued, we're going to contact the attorney who sued you. We're going to let them know that your income is protected. You can't pay the debt. Not going to pay the debt. You're not going to need to go to court. So, we don't represent people in court. We don't give legal advice. We provide legal information because you're not going to need to go to court. You're judgment proof. Your income is protected. Federal law protects your Social Security, your pension, your disability, your VA benefits. And we even talk on this channel on how it's protected in your bank account. So this person that writes in debt, need knowledge and advice, we're going to be able to talk to them. And a lot of stuff you're going to hear on our channel, you're not going to hear anywhere else. Because it's not companies who help people pay debt don't differentiate between seniors and younger persons who have regular jobs. They treat seniors just like they have a job and as though they're going to be something bad could happen to them, like their income could be taken, which isn't the case for seniors. So a lot of seniors sign up with a debt management or debt settlement company and are paying a debt they really don't need to pay. So if you have any questions, put them here, and I'll try to address them when I see your questions. I don't know Monica Main, but whoever that is. Yeah, I'm happy to talk to anyone. We do a lot of videos with senior living that you can see. Did one yesterday with them. We may talk about it a little bit later today. Okay, let's HS. When a senior joins Helps and gets an offer for at least one credit card with a small balance to maintain, like $25, would that be okay to get that to build up? Sure. If you want to, Okay. A lot of our clients don't care about building up their credit, but some do. Okay. Um, you don't want to get yourself in the position where you were before, obviously. But no, there's nothing wrong with you trying to rebuild your credit. A lot of our clients want to do that. Or if you have a credit card that's you're current on, it's a smaller balance. When you enroll in helps, you could keep that credit card. You don't have to list all your credit cards with helps. You can. One of the questions we ask people: do you have a credit card with a smaller balance or nothing is owed that you still would like to keep? And if the answer is yes, you can keep that credit card as long as it's not backed by a bank with whom you have another credit card you're not going to pay. In other words, if you had a credit card that was backed by Synchrony Bank, you weren't paying, but you had another one with Synchrony Bank that you wanted to pay and keep current. If you don't pay any credit card with Synchrony Bank, then they're going to cut off any other credit card you have with Synchrony Bank or for any other bank for that reason. Okay. Turbo asked, the purpose of a title search is to learn if there are judgments on the owner of the property. Yeah, that's why there's a title. See, if someone were to sue you in most states, a judgment can become a lien on the property. Okay. Now, when I say the property, what do I mean by the property? I'm talking about a home normally just on land, not a mobile home. There may be an exception or two, but mostly it's just home on land. Okay. But for a lot of reasons, that's not going to be an issue. In some states, it's easy to remove that lien. In some states, a lien can't attach to the property. Or if you own it with someone else, if you were to, and the judgment was just against you and you were to pass away, then the property goes to the survivor. So a lot of times a judgment lien on property isn't as serious matter as you might think it could be. Okay. It's not the practice of consumer judgment creditors to try to take people's property because of a judgment lien. Okay. Can you explain a 1099-E? I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to look that up. The 1099-C, which is you get that if you're going to, if you have a debt you haven't paid and they turn that into IRS, and then theoretically, that debt that was written off by the creditor can be attributed to you as income upon which you pay taxes. However, if you're insolvent, which means if your debt exceeds your assets, then there's a form you can file if you were required to file taxes that says you're insolvent and there's no tax. But if you're not filing tax returns, you're getting Social Security and that's it, and you got a 1099-C, probably nothing needed to be done. The IRS isn't going to follow up on it. They can tell from the computer that even if you did owe a tax, you could get on currently not collectible status. So generally, a 1099-C is not going to be an issue. I want to read this one. Yeah, if I don't answer your question, let me know or ask it again on the chat feature. So Donald says, just cancel my service for Beyond Finance. They sure tried hard to keep me. They said my creditors would sue me and levy my bank account and lien my house and freeze my assets. Is that true? No. There might be one little thing in there that could be a possibility, but it's not an issue. They make a lot of money off of people. Okay, let me just deal with one at a time. They said my creditors would sue me. Well, they could, but it doesn't matter if your income, Social Security, or pension, or disability, or VA benefit. It's protected. No one can touch it. I've already explained how it's protected in the bank account. Does it mean they're going to sue you? I used to give a percentage on how many times a person could be sued if they joined helps, and it was really low. And then some of the attorneys at helps told me, don't say that, Eric, because once in a while, maybe people have more than that percentage sue them, and they get upset and say, Eric said it's only this amount. So I don't give a percentage. It doesn't matter if one or all of them were to sue you. They can't collect from you. But it's generally a minority, if anyone at all, would sue. Doesn't matter if they do, for the reasons I've told you. They said that creditors could sue me and levy my bank account. Well, I've already explained, if you're getting Social Security or a federal benefit, twice that sum in your bank account is protected automatically from garnishment. They could levy the bank account, but they wouldn't get anything out of it. Now, if you happen to have more than that in there, then yeah, they could take the excess, and you'd have to file a challenge to garnishment or a claim of exemption, and the court would order it be released. We help people do that when it happens, but it's very rare that it's ever an issue. So no, your bank account is protected. So that's baloney what the guy said there beyond finance. Let's see what else here. And lien my house. Well, that depends on the state, but like I've explained, a lot of times a judgment lien isn't that critical for a lot of reasons. It can be removed. And freeze my assets. What do you mean freeze my assets? No, it can't freeze your assets. Oh, man. No, the question I have, if you're with a debt management company and you're a senior and you're getting Social Security, did they tell you this? By the way, Mr. or Mrs. Jones, whoever you are, your Social Security, your pension, all your income is protected by law. It can't be taken from you. Did they tell you that? You know what the answer is going to be? No, they never told you that. And if they would have told you that, you would have realized you didn't need to sign up with them and you wouldn't be paying them any money. So they're being deceptive with people by not giving them the complete truth. Oh, and then I talk to seniors sometimes put into utter poverty, making a payment to a debt management company for a debt they can't afford to pay. And they were never told the fact that their income was protected. So Jenny asks, how long does it take for your mortgage to give you an answer on your loss mitigation? It's driving me crazy in my stress. I'm up so bad. I had an EKG. It was that bad. Well, you can call and talk to us. We'll go over it. You know, I talked to someone yesterday. It could have been the day before, that was behind on the mortgage payment, and they were going to try to get loss mitigation or a plan to catch up on their missed payments. And I asked them, well, how far behind are you? And they said 2 months. And I said, don't let it get farther than 2. Send them a payment. Don't let it. They usually would accept payments at least till you're 3 months behind. You'd have to be more than 3 months behind before they'd stop accepting payments. But if you call them and you're going to get on loss mitigation to catch up on missed payments and you're only a couple of months behind, don't just sit there and not make any more payments waiting until you hear from them. Try not to get too far behind, okay? You can always come and talk to us. Now, let's talk about the worst case scenario. Sometimes I'll talk to people and I say, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen if you're buying a home, okay? So let's say you're buying a home and the payments are $1,000 a month. Let's say you're 6 months behind, $6,000. And let's say they filed foreclosure. Now, it'd be really unusual for them to file foreclosure if you're only 6 months behind. Usually you have to be a year behind. And let's say the home is worth $250,000, you only own $100,000. You got a lot of equity. You don't want to lose the home. Well, the worst thing that could happen is theoretically you could file a type of bankruptcy called a Chapter 13 that would stop the foreclosure, okay? Dead in its tracks. And then it'd give you up to 5 years to catch up on the missed mortgage payment. And say you're behind, let's say you're behind $10,000 on the mortgage, okay? Well, you take $10,000 divided by 60 months is, I think it's $166 a month, okay? So you could file a Chapter 13 and you would resume making your regular mortgage payments of $1,000 a month, okay? And then you'd have to pay an extra probably $200 to a trustee who would pay. The trustee gets a commission. Sometimes it might go to some of the attorney fees for filing the 13, and the rest goes to catch up on the missed mortgage payment. And then the foreclosure couldn't happen. Okay. And there's other ways to solve the problem, but no, you're not going to lose the home. Okay. We don't want you to worry. That's the most important thing here. Well, I want you to worry a little bit until we talk to you and we get your problem solved. Okay. And talk to you what your options are. So this person contacts us from Tennessee. Help. I'm in trouble with overwhelming debt and constantly called and emailed with collection of the debt with collectors. Please help me. I found you by watching YouTube and it seems you might be able to help. I am married and both of us are retired with just Social Security income. I'm afraid they will try to take our home for all this debt. I'm 63 and my husband is 68. And then they have a PS. Because they're constantly calling me with different numbers, I don't answer my phone. My husband can and does answer his phone. The debt is all in my name only. You're not going to lose the home. That's not going to be a problem. And your only income is Social Security. If they were to sue and get a judgment, they can't touch your Social Security. If you have a bank account to which your Social Security goes, that particular bank account is protected automatically up to twice the amount of Social Security benefits that are deposited in that account. So if you had an account with your husband, so to speak, let's say he got $1,500 and you got $2,000, that'd be $3,500 each month in Social Security going into that checking account. 3,500 times 2 would be 7,000 in your bank account would be protected from garnishment in the event they were going to garnish you. Okay. Now, the debt is in your name. If they got a judgment, is your home at risk? No, they can't take the home. It's both in your husband's name. There's a whole lot of reasons why you don't need to worry and don't need to be scared or overwhelmed. We'll know what to tell you. So this person, they write in, they say, the pension alone wouldn't be protected plus 2 times the Social Security payment. No, well, let me make sure you understand. The federal rule, the rule is the bank rule that protects money in your bank account from garnishment, been in effect since 2012, says that twice the amount of your federal benefit that you get each month, Social Security, that sum is protected in the bank account to which it's deposited, regardless of what other funds are in there. So if you got $1,500 in Social Security, $3,000 is in there, is protected, even if some money in there came from your pension. Okay? Now, if it's a federal pension that goes in there with your Social Security, say, for example, you got a VA benefit of $1,000 plus $1,500 for Social Security, then that would be a total of $2,500, 15 plus 1,000 for the VA benefit, $2,500 times 2, twice, for 2 months, 5,000 in your bank account's protected. Now, if you happen to have more than that in there, it doesn't mean you'd lose that money. If someone sued you and they tried to garnish your account, you could file a challenge to garnishment or claim of exemption. Court would order that money be released. But most people tell me they never have more than twice the amount of their federal benefit in their bank account any one time. Okay. Person writes in and they say, I have a secured loan using my car. Can they repossess my car? Yeah, if you don't make the car payment. See, if you buy a car through a dealer, their name is on the title. I mean, you're the registered owner. They're the legal owner, so they could repossess the car. Okay. Now, This person says I have a secured loan using my car. So what that means is maybe they got a little loan from the loan company and they put up their car as collateral for the loan, the title. Yeah, it could be repossessed if you didn't make the payment. Although if the car is really old and it's a piece of junk and not very worth a whole lot, they may never bother with trying to repossess it. It might cost them more to repossess it than the car is worth. So it kind of depends on the circumstance, okay? But legally, if they have the title of the car, they could repossess it. Person calls us from, I think it's Oregon here. Let me look and see. Hello. My housing costs are having a significant impact on my budget. I'm having a substantial increase in my home insurance due to most companies not wanting to insure property in my area of Oregon. One of my largest monthly bills are from one of my children's student loans from approximately 20 years ago. Well, let's talk about the student loan first. Right now, if you have a student loan, the most that could happen, and it's not happening now, is that they don't sue, they don't file a lawsuit. But if it's a public or government insured student loan, not a private student loan, but a government loan backed by the government, they can. It is possible under the law for them to offset 15% of your Social Security. They wouldn't take your pension or other income, but they're not doing that right now. They haven't done it since 2018. They were going to start up in May, but then in June, the government announced that the Department of Education announced they were not going to do it. So, there's no risk of if you're paying a student loan and you can't really afford it, you could stop paying it. Okay, they're not going to, and if they did decide to start up collecting student loans from seniors on Social Security, around 2018 or before that, they had what's called income-based repayment plan. And if your income was low enough, you wouldn't have to pay any of the student loan. Or if you're disabled, you can get it discharged. So right now, student loans really aren't a big problem. But he's saying he's having a problem with house insurance. What to do? Well, sometimes I'll talk about. You can shop the insurance. You can increase the deductible. Try to find a better deal. If you had a whole lot of equity in the home and things were really tight, and let's say you had a house payment, I'll give you an example. Let's say your house payment is $800, but you're only getting $1,800 in Social Security, or maybe your spouse passed away. And so time you pay $800 for the house payment, it leaves you with $1,000. But let's say the house is worth $200,000, you owe $50,000 on it. So you got a lot of equity in the home, and you want to stay in the home. But the time you pay for the house payment, which includes the insurance, let's say, it leaves you $1,000, and that's really hard to live off of. You could look at what's called a reverse mortgage with that kind of equity. If you have equity of about at least 50% or more, depending on your age, a reverse mortgage could pay off your existing mortgage. And then depending on how much equity you have in it, it could provide that it would pay for your house insurance. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay? Sometimes I'll suggest a reverse mortgage. It's not for everyone, but I'll suggest it to someone and they'll say, I don't want that. And I'll ask them why. And they'll say, they can't give me a reason because just they don't know anything about it. It's not for not for everyone, but there are times where a reverse mortgage can really be an answer to prayer. And for people for some persons to immediately say that it's a bad idea, it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, a reverse mortgage in a lot of cases could really, really help a senior. Another example could be, let's say you got a home that's free and clear and you have minimal income and Maybe you don't have any kids, but you want to stay in the home. Well, you don't want anyone to leave the home to, really, that's a close relative. So you could get a reverse mortgage, which would give you access to some equity out of the home to help supplement your income or pay off an existing mortgage so you don't have a house payment anymore. And you'd live a lot nicer life. Okay. Now, even if you do have children, you could get a reverse mortgage and still leave the home to your kids. You can, reverse mortgage, you still own the home. Okay. The bank doesn't own the home. You own the home. You could still sell it. Okay. Or give it to your heirs at your death, whatever. So, sometimes there's ways to deal with property insurance issues. Okay. Let's go on. Let's see. Do I have a question here that I can deal with? Okay. Sorry about that. I just want to make sure there wasn't a question I have to deal with here. This person contacts us from Virginia. I have thousands of dollars of debt I can't pay due to becoming severely disabled. I had to drop out and can't work. I am working with an attorney for Social Security disability. I'm still waiting on a decision. Because I'm not currently receiving Social Security disability, I'm not qualified for your program? Question mark. No, if you're not working and you don't have any income, no, to qualify for helps, it's pretty liberal. Call us and we'll talk to you. Okay. I have Medicaid, SNAP, and credit card debt waiver. Okay. The calls and the possibility of being sued are stressing me out and making my symptoms worse. If I don't qualify for helps, there's another group you know of that will take care of the communication for me. As far as I know, we're the only organization that does what we do. But yeah, you call if you're having these problems, be sure call us on the phone. We'll be glad to talk to you 2, 3, or 4 times. You'll feel whatever you need. And if you decide you need our help, we don't turn anyone away that needs our help. Okay. The cost is minimal. Maybe 1 out of 6 or 7 of our clients get our help for free. And those that pay a very minimal amount. But you're our client ongoing, so you never have to deal with collectors again. Okay? So this is someone I talked to, I think yesterday. And I didn't like this conversation. And you'll see why. She called me from Minnesota, and she had $8,000 taken from her savings account that was garnished. And the amount she got in Social Security each month was like about $1,600 a month. So 16 times 2 is $3,200. And I asked her, did they leave $3,200 in your bank account? She said yes. So she had like 11,000 in there or whatever. But they left her $3,200, but they took $8,000 out of her bank account. Then I asked the key question. I said, how long ago did you get that rid of garnishment? How long ago did they take it out? And she said 2 months ago. And I said, that's the problem. See, under state law, if they file a writ of garnishment and you're going to object to the garnishment that it's taken out improperly or that they don't have a right to it, there's a time limit for you to file an answer to contest it. In Minnesota, it's 14 days to object to the garnishment, which she could have done and put forth evidence that the money in her savings account was traced right back to Social Security. So She got Social Security in her checking account, transferred it to her savings account, and or no, I guess it was all in her checking account, and so that's why they protected $3,200 twice the monthly, but the excess they didn't protect. But now she calls us, she finds out about helps and calls us, but it's too late. 2 months ago, it's 6 weeks too late. And so not a whole lot we can do to help her. So if you ever are garnished, and they do take money out, there are time limits that require you to file paperwork with the court to get that money released. Now, thankfully, when people talk with helps and they realize how their income is protected, you can set up your account so that isn't an issue. And they also remember, you don't need to worry about it unless someone has sued you and gotten a judgment. So if you hear this and you run out, I got to pull money out of my bank account. That's only if you've been sued and they have a judgment. Now, if they sue you, that doesn't mean they're going to get a judgment the next day. It's usually going to take, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, couple months, whatever. It could even be longer. So it gives you plenty of time to get your bank account in order. So this person here's from Georgia, age 64. And it says, they wanted to call us, but been nervous. I guess you don't need to be nervous to talk to helps. We're the friendliest people you're going to ever talk to. We're never going to judge you. And the information we're going to have is going to be good. And I don't ever talk to people that after I'm done talking to them, I could tell they're scared or worried or they're worse than when they called us. They're always more relieved. They're always relieved. If I ever had, they always say, we should have called you. The only thing they say is, I wish I would have called you sooner. Okay. So this was back in March. Okay. And one of the notes from one of our staff says, very frustrated with the credit card companies not working with her. It says, been having to borrow money from her daughter for groceries. We discussed how to get on currently not collectible status for IRS taxes. She lives out overseas. She has a couple Capital One credit cards she wants to keep, which is fine. You can keep a credit card with helps as long as it's not backed by a bank with whom you have another credit card by the same bank where you have another credit card you're not going to pay. Okay? And she called us back on December 9th, which would have been 2 days ago, and explains how she talked to us earlier. She's been watching our videos, and it says she's prepared to proceed. And it looks like we called her back or we talked to her, and then she enrolled in helps. Yeah, you can call us as many times as you feel need to before you feel comfortable. Okay? Okay. Person contacts us from Indiana. I got in a mess. That's what it starts out by saying. With my credit. I went to a credit counselor and they didn't do this like they said they would. All my bills didn't get paid. And from now, it really looks bad. Knocked my credit to 589, 450. I want to get my credit up so I can pay the loans off. buy a house for my family and live debt-free. Yeah, it's a good goal to have. So let's talk about reestablishing credit, okay? That's not the purpose of helps, to help people reestablish. We can help you do that if you want to do that, but a lot of our clients, they don't really care, let's talk about it. So first off, if you have a credit card that you're current on and you enroll in helps, and it's a smaller amount that you could afford, you could keep paying that credit card and keep it. Now, if you do want to reestablish your credit, we do have a program called 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score. So it is possible to rebuild your credit. Your credit is based on your recent credit history. Now, this program is available to helps clients after they've been part of helps for 90 days. And you can rebuild your credit within a year and a half, 2 years, up to 700 plus credit score. And it doesn't involve you paying the old debt. It involves you paying the recent debt that you incur, after you enroll in helps. But your old debt, you don't need to pay it. You might say, well, gee, Eric, if they sue me and there's a lawsuit or judgments on my credit report, isn't that going to muff up my credit being rebuilt? Well, lawsuits and judgments don't appear on the credit reports anymore. About 2018 or maybe 2019, the credit bureaus stopped reporting credit reports, stopped including lawsuits and judgments or tax liens. Okay? It's just based on your recent credit history, so you can rebuild your credit. Okay, if that's what you want to do. But if your income's really super low, maybe $1,200, $1,300 a month, and you're paying $500, $600 for rent, there's not a lot of extra money with which to be able to pay debt if you incur debt. Okay, so maybe reestablishing credit for a lot of seniors isn't something that they necessarily need to do. Now, you might want to do it. Maybe you think it's going to help with your, renting. You can do that. But, we do have a letter, we call it a landlord letter, that we'll give to any senior that will explain to a prospective landlord that even though you have negative entries on your credit, all your income is protected, is available to pay your rent. So we try to help seniors that, that have issues with their credit so that they can help, if they need help renting a place. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay, let's see if there's some questions here that I needed. So Jimmy asked, Eric, I got a call from the credit union who said they got an order of garnishment. The lady gave it to the firm's lawyer to send back with an explanation to the judge that my stuff is protected. Well, it doesn't go to the judge. It goes to the other attorney that filed. Garnishment is not filed by a court. It's filed by an attorney. All the judge does is say, you owe the money. And then an attorney normally in a garnishment would file a writ of garnishment on the bank or credit union. Yeah. So Jimmy's explaining exactly how it works, except normally they don't turn over to an attorney. The bank or credit union just explains themselves. They look at your account and they automatically protect twice the amount of your federal benefit. So Jimmy, if you were getting $1,500 in Social Security, $3,000 in that account is protected automatically. And they just notify the person that did the garnishment, that company, that all your money is protected and you don't need to worry. So it worked out very well for me. That's right. Yeah, the banks and credit unions, they're pretty much on board. They understand the law. Now, the individuals that work there that don't deal with garnishments probably don't know the law. If they do, there'd be more the exception. I've yet talked to a bank manager yet that understands that twice the amount of your Social Security is protected. But the department in the bank that deals with garnishments, they know the law. But if there was ever a problem, get a hold of us. We'd take care of it. Person calls us from Maryland. A creditor is filing for garnishment. I'm on Social Security disability because of a permanent disability. Well, you know the answer. They could garnish it till they're blue in the face. As long as you keep the balance less than twice the amount of what you get in Social Security in your bank account, the bank isn't going to honor that garnishment. Okay. This person contacted us and we read what we did, explained how to get us the creditors, and she was going to talk to her husband. And then in November of this year, late November, they have property in Florida. They have been trying to sell it, but they can't. Apparently, they live in another state. They're looking for part-time work. Husband door dashes, and he has credit card debt he's not currently on. He has an SBA loan. That's a Small Business Administration loan, probably a loan for a business they had from years ago. It says that they hired an attorney to clean up a lien, whatever that means. There were 5 other individuals that were secured on a home that they had, probably one in Florida. They had a car that was involved in an accident. They will receive up to $8,000. Talked about the statute of limitations. Talked about the difference between helps and bankruptcy. And they write us, they say, thanks again for taking the time to speak with us. Speak with me and my husband yesterday. We truly appreciate your guidance. After consulting with a bankruptcy attorney, we were advised that Chapter 13 may not be the best option for us. Yeah, it very well may not be. So we'd like to explore working with helps by enrolling in your program. Because we are currently owe the IRS an outstanding bank loans to pay off. It talks about, okay. Anyway, there's not a lot of detail there to tell you, except that, when we talk with people, we ask you a bunch of questions, basic questions like, what your income is. Have you been sued? Do you owe the IRS? Are you buying a home? Are you renting? Are you buying a car? Do you own a car? And so, approximately what do you owe in credit card debt? And we're able to analyze your situation and give you information you need to know. Now, this person, they talked to a bankruptcy attorney and about doing a bankruptcy, and apparently told him that 13 wasn't a good idea. And he probably wasn't a good idea. Maybe they had too much equity in an asset. They couldn't file Chapter 7, but if they filed a 13, they'd have to make a monthly payment. Maybe they couldn't afford that payment. So there's a lot of reasons why bankruptcy isn't a good idea for seniors. Occasionally it is, but often it isn't. But the attorneys that work for helps, we've filed many thousands of bankruptcies, so we know what the rules are and when it might make sense for someone to do it. Okay. This is a comment on one of our videos, and it says, it's a big question, they say. Most state pensions like mine are directly deposited into my bank account. Can a creditor garnish my state pension through the bank after funds are deposited? Um, well, if your Social Security goes into that account and the total amount in that bank account is less than twice the amount of what you get in Social Security or federal benefits, no, they can't garnish the bank account, even if part of the money is from your state pension. Now, if only the pension went into there, the state pension, not a federal pension, a state pension, and then they filed a writ of garnishment, yes, they could hold that money up. But then you could file what's called a challenge to garnishment or claim of exemption to have the court release those funds back to you. But you wouldn't even need to worry about it unless you were sued and they had a judgment, and then have to know where you bank. Okay. So if you were worried about it, let's say you got a $1,500 state pension, and it comes there on the first of the month. Well, if you're worried about it, and someone did have a judgment, and you didn't get any federal benefits, and you didn't want to have to worry about going to the court and asking to get the money released, then as soon as the pension hits, you pull the money out. They'd have to file the writ of garnishment at the exact right time to pull that money out. See, a writ of garnishment on your bank account is a snapshot in time. Okay, they get it in the mail, and if it opens it up at 10 o'clock in the morning, they look at your account at 10 o'clock in the morning, and if there's no money in there, just a few dollars, and there's nothing for them to take, or just a little teeny amount, and then the rest of the money comes at 2 in the afternoon. No, they just look at it when they get it, 10 o'clock in the morning, and if money goes in there later that day or the next day, no, that money's going to be protected. It's the garnishment has already been looked at. So the next person asked, they said, what about life insurance proceeds? Can they touch that? Well, that would be under state law, and normally, no, they can't. Most states would have a law that would protect life insurance proceeds from being garnished. So this person, let's see if we've got questions I need to deal with here. So this person writes in, they say, I gave back a vehicle. Initially, the finance company sent me a letter indicating that I needed to pay the difference between what was owed on the loan and what they were able to sell the car for at auction. It was approximately $10,000. It's called a deficiency. Okay. I never sent them any money. And then about a year later, I got a letter saying that the $10,000 was forgiven. Of course, I felt relieved until I received a tax form indicating that I had to claim, it's called a 1099-C, I had to claim $10,000 on my taxes. As a senior on Social Security, I'm still working. There's a tax bracket that I try to stay within. Having to add the extra $10,000 onto my income for 2023 put me in a tax bracket that required me to pay taxes over and above. For the first time in my life, I owe a big chunk of money to the IRS and state I was living in. I've already paid approximately $1,700 payroll tax throughout the year, yet I still owe over $3,000 more to federal and over $800 to the state. I have to set up a payment plan for both to avoid the threatening letters from both. And even though I am on a payment plan for the federal, they continue to accumulate interest and penalties. It's just unbelievable to me that this is happening to me as a senior. Well, okay. First off, if you're insolvent, which means you have more debt than assets, then you may not even be required to owe taxes on the $10,000 deficiency on the car that went back. Okay? But let's say you did owe that, and you did owe those in taxes. Depending on what your income is, maybe your income has gone down, maybe you lose the job or you don't stop working anymore. Your only income is going to be Social Security, maybe a little bit. Your income has gone down. Just because you owe the IRS taxes doesn't mean you necessarily have to pay it. You might be able to get on what's called currently not collectible status. So If you're a single person, your income is like $2,500, a little bit more or less than that, you get a currently not collectible status. If it's a couple, usually it's about $3,500, maybe a little bit more or less. You can get a currently not collectible status and not have to pay the IRS taxes. Or you may be able to pay it over as long as 5 or 6 years. And if you owe that amount in taxes, you could end up with a payment less than $50 a month. So you're probably not going to need to worry too much about those taxes in that situation. But if you do have a question, you call and talk to us. Person writes in, says, I have a lot of unpaid medical bills that I can't pay between my husband. We only get $3,000 in Social Security. By the time we pay rent and the rest of our bills, we have $100 left over. He's ill. I try and do all because he can't. What can I do? We don't have to worry about the medical bills. They'll need to be paid. They can't collect from you. Your only income is Social Security. Now, if it's a doctor that you use regularly, we wouldn't want to send them a cease and desist letter. Just pay them $10 a month or $15, whatever you think you can. They know that they're getting paid primarily from Medicaid or Medicare. They're not going to cut you off. Okay, this person writes in, they say, a year ago, I started receiving disability. Okay. Well, they say, I've received disability in 2012 and have received it ever since. All of a sudden, 3 months ago, I got a letter from the Social Security Department stating they overpaid me $22,000 and they intend to collect it by taking all but $142 a month of my monthly Social Security disability payment. You know, a year ago, if you had Social Security overpayment, they were only taking 10%, but they've changed their procedures now and they take more than they really should be. But anyway, they're taking most of this person's money. He says, I proved to them how they were wrong and they made a mistake and they wouldn't hear of it. They let me appeal it twice with their protocol and they just cut my monthly and won't even talk to me about it. I prove where they screwed up even. Now I'm told there are no attorneys that will touch this. Why? Well, okay. I answered this person. This was on one of our videos or someone else's video. And told him, I said, if you have a Social Security overpayment like that, you could file bankruptcy and wipe out the overpayment. Okay. So they're not going to, Social Security isn't going to contest your bankruptcy. The overpayment's going to be wiped out and you're going to start getting your full benefits. Okay. So that might be one situation where we would tell someone, hey, suggest someone look into filing bankruptcy. Okay. That way you're going to get your payment. You don't need to worry. Your full Social Security. So I did a video. We're almost done. I'll just conclude with this. I did a video with Jeff Hoyt that's going to come out at Senior Living. And I think it was on Good News for Seniors during Good News for the holidays. And I started out with the best news a senior can get. Because a lot of seniors don't know this. You do because you listen to me. But I said, if you're a senior and you owe debt that you're struggling to pay, you don't have to pay it. Okay? Federal law protects your Social Security, your pension, your disability, your VA benefits, IRA, 401ks. All that money is protected and available to you for your needs, to pay for your food, for your medicine, to buy a little gift for your grandkids. And you can choose to stop paying that debt. Now, there's a way to stop the creditors from harassing you. They can be sent what's called a cease and desist letter. You can get that on the internet. Helps. That's what Helps does. We represent people to stop that. is their attorney, but you can do it yourself too. You can send a cease and desist letter out, and a debt collector can no longer call or send you demands anymore. So that's good news for seniors that are struggling financially, is that one option you have is you could choose to stop paying the debt. They can't take money from you, and you can stop creditors from harassing you. Now, obviously, if you can afford to pay the debt, you can do that. But I'm just saying, if you're in a position where you really can't, you can stop. Okay? So I'm done for today. Another week has gone by. We're going to be available and doing this again on Monday. We do helps YouTube Live Monday through Thursday. So next Monday, I'll see you 2 hours earlier. Was it 10 o'clock Pacific, 11 Mountain, 12 Central, and 1 o'clock Eastern time. So have a good weekend. And if you have any questions, please call us, press the like button, subscribe to our channel. Please share what Helps does with others. More seniors find it helps through our YouTube videos than any other place. So have a good day, and I will talk to you later. God bless. Bye.